Alongside Bob Weeks. Time now for List It. Bob, there are so many great Canadians on the PGA Tour, so let's have a little fun. Let's rank your top 5 Canucks on the PGA Tour today. Bob, let's start with number 5.
Okay, these are as of we speak right now. And at number 5, I'm going to go with Ben Silverman. He had a really good return to the PGA Tour. He played a couple of years ago, but he's basically been down in the minor leagues for a few years. But he played really well at the Sony. He has actually got perhaps the best short game of any Canadian player. His wedge play and his putting was really, really good. His overall game wasn't bad. He was tied for 16th in strokes gained total, so that shows you he's played pretty well all around. He played his last 49 holes with just one single bogey. And you got to watch this guy's Instagram and see how he works out in the gym. He is absolutely relentless at working out. He says he works out like an athlete, not a golfer. He wants to have overall fitness. It makes me tired just watching this guy. I'm thinking there's going to be some big things for Ben Silverman this year.
I don't know, Bob, watching you and Ben Silverman in the gym, I could compare those pretty easily too. We should also mention on Ben Silverman, 1 win, 6 top 10s in 2023 on the Corn Ferry Tour. Ben Silverman primed for a big 2024. So he's at number 5. Bob, how about number 4?
Okay, I'm putting Corey Connors there, and people are going to say, Corey Connors, number 4. I mean, he's ranked the highest guy Canadian in the world. But really, I'm basing this on his 2 tournament performance so far, and I'm holding him to a higher standard because he is the top Canadian golfer really on a long-term basis. But he didn't really play too well in terms of his short game. Now, he has really shaken that up over the last couple of years, especially last year. His chipping, his bunker play, and his putting were really, really much improved. But he's way down on the list. He's 120th and 134th, respectively, in putting and short game. And, you know, that's not what we expect from Corey Connors. I don't think it's anything to worry about. I think once he gets playing a little bit more frequently, I think things will turn around for him. But right now, I've got him in that 4th slot.
I like that, Bob. And everyone always mentions how Corey Connors is a very consistent ball striker. But as you mentioned, that short game really has to improve for his overall game to improve. He's 128th in strokes gained putting. That was last season. 136th in strokes gained putting in 2022. 112th in strokes gained putting in 2021. Corey Connors needs to improve on the greens to make his way up the world rankings. Okay, that's number 5. And number 4, Bob, how about number 3?
Okay, number 3, I've got Adam Hadwin. And you might say, oh, yeah, well, he missed the cut last week. But if you take his first round at the Sony and you take his 4 rounds at the Century, there's really something to like about that. And you can look over and say, well, you know, the last 9 holes of that second round at the Sony, he played in 4 over. But look before that. The opener at Sony where he shot 67. The 4 rounds at the Centuries where he was well under par, and including that Sunday 64 where he made 10 birdies. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Adam Hadwin. I like the progression he's got with his game. You know, he built himself up a little bit in the offseason. He's hitting it a little bit further. And I think he's perhaps the most optimistic and the guy with the most goals and the most drive right now amongst the Canadians that I've talked to and seen so far.
And he's certainly motivated, too, to make the International Presidents Cup team for the 3rd time in his career. He has 15 top 10s in the last 3 seasons. I'm also expecting big things from Adam Hadwin in 2024. Let's get to number 2, Bob. Now, who's your second-ranked Canadian PGA Tour golfer?
I've got Taylor Pendrith in there, and he's played well. You know, he's a good guy. He's coming off a few injuries, some nagging injuries. He hits the ball a long, long way. But last week at the Sony, a top 10 finish, really a big result from his putting. When he putts well, the rest of his game is so good that it just makes things look easy. And that's really what he did. And when you look at the stats, he was 6th in putting at the Sony. Last year on the PGA Tour, he was 102nd. So you can see how that change in putting really affects his game. Here's an interesting stat for you, though. On the 9th hole on Sunday, he hit 2 shots 5 feet. Only one of them was a putt, and he made a birdie. You can figure that one out. It tells you how long he hits it, and he doesn't need to do much more than hit it close and sink some putts. Also, he's got a really good chance to play himself into that next signature event at Pebble Beach. He's 4th on the Aon Swing 5. And if he can stay inside that top 5, he'll get a start at Pebble Beach. And we know what the purses are like there. That is a big, big payday for a guy like Taylor Pendrith.
And we've seen him go on hot streaks before too, Bob. Of course, you remember in 2022 when he finished T13 or better in 5 consecutive starts on the PGA Tour to surprisingly make the International Presidents Cup team. Taylor Pendrith is number 2 for you right now. So let's get to it. Number 1, who is your top-ranked Canadian PGA Tour golfer right now, Bob?
Well, it's Nick Taylor, and I think for good reason. He has played perhaps the best of them all, and when you look at it, he's got a tie for 52nd, but he's got that tie for 7th, which he put together last week. And what he did at the Sony really kind of shows you what his game is why his game is so good right now. It's the short game. He has really bolstered that. Like a lot of the other guys I've been mentioning, the rest of his game is fairly solid, a little shaky off the tee sometimes, but when he putts well and when he chips well, he scores well. And it's not necessarily, 62s and 63s and 64, but what he did at the Sony is really an example of what that real strength of his chipping and his putting, which he's working on with Gareth Raflewski, a noted short game coach, on. It really turns those 73s and 74s into 67s, 68s, and 69s. And at the end of the week, I can tell you right now, the difference in a paycheck between 15th and 45th, which is essentially what those numbers mean I just gave on those scores, it's huge. So he may not be winning all the time, but he may not even be actually contending to win. But when you move those finishes up the leaderboard a little bit, it makes a huge difference in your confidence. And then you can go on to the next week and try to get yourself into position to win. And that's what Nick Taylor is doing right now, at least early in the season.
And Bob, we got to spend some time with Nick Taylor a couple of weeks ago. He has that quiet confidence, that swagger, perhaps the same swagger we saw from Nick Taylor back in 2009 when he was the top-ranked amateur in the world for 20 weeks. I'm expecting big things from Nick Taylor in 2024. So, Bob, we've gone through the top 5 Canadians on the PGA Tour in your mind, but no Mackenzie Hughes right now. He finished 2023 on a high note. Why no Mac, Bob?
Well, there's only one start for Mac Hughes. He's only played one tournament right now, so I need a little bit more. I need a little bit more information on him. I need a little bit more, a few more details on how he is. I suspect this top 5, if we do this regularly, is going to change quite a bit. I mean, Roger Sloan is making his debut at the American Express. There's another guy who could do some things and has done it in the past. So there's too many Canadians to fill up on the top 5. That's a great problem to have. I can remember back in the days when we didn't have even 2 or 3 Canadians on the tour. So it's a good problem that I can't fit all the guys into a top 5.
Certainly a great problem to have. So many Canadians on the PGA Tour playing some great golf. This has been List It with Bob Weeks.